The awakening beneath the abyss. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, where the weight of the ocean could crush steel like paper, the deep-sea research vessel Orion hovered in perfect stillness. It was a small speck in the vast, crushing darkness of the abyss, its lights barely illuminating the endless void that stretched beyond human comprehension. Inside the ship's command center, Dr. Elias Carter sat hunched over a glowing console, his tired eyes scanning the latest sonar readings. A seasoned oceanographer and one of the foremost experts in deep-sea exploration, Elias had spent over 2 decades searching for anomalies beneath the ocean floor. He never expected that his greatest discovery wouldn't be of this earth. Dr. Carter. A voice crackled through the comms, snapping him out of his trance. It was Ava Monroe, his lead technician. You might want to take a look at this. Elias turned to the main display, his pulse quickening. The sonar was picking up something vast, something symmetrical, geometric, impossible. A perfectly rectangular structure buried deep within the trench. That can't be natural, Elias muttered, running a hand through his graying hair. How long have we been scanning this region? 3 years, Ava replied. And we've never seen this before. Elias exhaled sharply. That meant one of 2 things. Either their equipment had just now detected something ancient, or something had moved. The ship's captain, Aaron Blake, leaned over Elias's shoulder, arms crossed. You're telling me we've had this thing under our noses this whole time? Elias shook his head. No, it was hidden. Something was cloaking it. Blake's expression darkened. Then the question is, why is it showing up now? A gateway into the unknown. Within the hour, they deployed a deep-sea drone named Nautilus 7 to investigate. The unmanned probe descended into the darkness, its floodlights cutting through the black void like knives. The crew watched in eerie silence as the drone's camera feed flickered onto the main screen. As Nautilus 7 neared the anomaly, the lights revealed something no human had ever seen. Massive walls, smooth as glass, yet clearly made of metal, rose from the ocean floor, stretching farther than the drone's sensors could detect. Strange symbols, pulsating with an otherworldly glow, lined the structure's surface. The moment the drone approached, the symbols reacted, lighting up in a slow, rhythmic sequence as if responding to an unspoken command. This is advanced, Ava whispered, awe and fear creeping into her voice. No way this was made by any ancient civilization we know. Elias leaned closer to the screen, his heartbeat thundering. This isn't from Earth. The sleeping giants. The drone found an entrance, a vast, door-like structure that loomed like the gates of an ancient temple. As the Nautilus 7 approached, the doors didn't just open. They dissolved into nothingness, revealing a corridor beyond. Metallic walls lined the passageway, untouched by time or water. The drone's scanners detected no corrosion, no degradation, just an impossible stillness. It ventured deeper, transmitting data back to the crew in real time. Then the drone entered a vast chamber, and every person on Orion's deck froze. There, arranged in a perfect circle, lay enormous pods, dozens of them, each encased in a transparent material. Inside the pods were figures, humanoid figures. Are they human? Blake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elias zoomed in on one of the pods. The figure inside looked like a man, tall, muscular, with pale skin and intricate markings running along his arms and chest. His eyes were closed, his expression serene, as if merely sleeping. But the readings said otherwise. They're alive, Ava whispered. They're in some kind of stasis. Elias's mind raced. Who, or what, were these beings? How long had they been down here? More importantly, what if they're not meant to wake up? The signal that changed everything. Before anyone could respond, Orion's entire system flickered. The lights dimmed. The screens distorted. The ship trembled as a deep, resonant hum reverberated through the ocean. Then it happened. From the depths of the chamber, a pulse of energy shot upward. An invisible signal, carrying a message that neither man nor machine could comprehend. The radio crackled with static before a voice speaking no human language, pierced through the noise. Ava paled. Oh my God, something is answering. Far above them, beyond the skies of Earth, something ancient stirred, and it was coming. The sky remembers. The signal that pulsed from the depths of the Mariana Trench traveled faster than any radio wave humanity had ever known. It moved with purpose, cutting through the atmosphere, piercing the void of space, and stretching beyond the boundaries of Earth's solar system. Someone, was listening. On board the research vessel Orion, the crew reeled from the shock of what they had just witnessed. The deep-sea anomaly, the buried structure, was no longer silent. It was broadcasting. And worse, something was responding. Dr. Elias Carter turned from the control panel, his mind racing. That signal was sent intentionally, he muttered, barely able to hear his own voice over the murmurs of the crew. And it wasn't just random noise. It was a beacon. Captain Aaron Blake clenched his fists, his instincts screaming at him to shut it all down. We don't know who, or what, is listening, he said. Cut the drone's connection now. But before anyone could react, the main screen flickered violently, then stabilized. A new feed appeared, a live transmission from deep space. Ava Monroe, the lead technician, gasped as data flooded onto the monitors. We just picked up multiple incoming objects, and they're moving at impossible speeds. Elias's stomach twisted into knots. How many? Ava's voice was barely above a whisper. 4. No, 5 ships. All entering Earth's atmosphere. The entire control room went silent. Then the radio crackled, and a voice they had never heard before spoke in perfect, eerily calm English. We have come for them. Visitors from the void. Within minutes, the world was no longer the same. The skies over Earth ignited with streaks of silver and blue as 5 massive vessels broke through the planet's atmosphere, descending in eerie synchronization. They did not burn like meteors, nor did they slow as if obeying the laws of physics. They simply arrived. Every global defense system went on high alert. Satellites struggled to lock onto the unknown objects, scrambling to analyze their composition. The vessels ignored all human technology, slipping past radars and missile defenses as if they were mere inconveniences. Then, just as suddenly as they had arrived, they stopped, hovering in absolute silence, high above Earth's major cities. One ship above Washington, another over Beijing, a third over London, a fourth over Moscow. And the final one. It held position directly above the Mariana Trench. Panic erupted worldwide. Governments scrambled for control. News channels broadcast live feeds of the colossal ships, their sleek, metallic surfaces shifting like liquid under the sunlight. No insignia, no markings, no weapons, just presence. Then, for the second time that day, a transmission echoed across the planet. Surrender the facility. The sleepers must not wake. Secrets humanity was never meant to know. Inside Orion, Elias and his team stared at the radio in stunned silence. The voice was calm, patient, but behind it lay something else. Fear. Eva swallowed hard. They're not attacking. They're demanding something. Blake turned sharply to Elias. They're talking about the pods, the beings we found. Elias's mind was spinning. He had spent his life searching for proof that humanity wasn't alone. Now that proof was standing at Earth's doorstep, not as invaders, but as wardens, the realization settled in his chest like lead. They're not here for us, he murmured. They're here for what we found. A tense silence followed. Then, as if summoned by their unease, the deep-sea drone Nautilus 7 began transmitting something new. The pods. The camera zoomed in on the central chamber, focusing on the stasis capsules that encased the ancient humanoid figures. But something had changed. The pods, which had once hummed faintly with dormant energy, were now flaring with activity. Their surfaces pulsed with shifting golden patterns, and the beings inside, they were stirring. Ava's voice was barely above a whisper. "They're waking up." Blake grabbed the radio and spoke directly into it. "This is Captain Blake of the research vessel Orion. Who are you? And what the hell is going on?" The response came instantly. "You do not understand. They were never meant to wake." A cold dread crept up Elias's spine. "Who are they?" For the first time, the voice hesitated. Then it answered, "The last of the war gods. A history long buried." Elias barely had time to process those words before Orion's systems shut down completely. The ship's lights flickered out. The monitors went black. Every piece of electronic equipment died in an instant, as if something beyond human understanding had simply willed them into silence. Then, from the depths of the ocean, something ancient stirred. The research team rushed to the window, peering into the abyss. At first, there was only darkness. Then, movement. The stasis pods, once locked in perfect stillness, were opening. Steam hissed as the first pod's cover slid back, revealing the being inside. His skin was pale, marked with glowing golden etchings that pulsed like circuitry. His eyes, deep, luminous, and filled with something far older than time, snapped open. Elias exhaled sharply. God help us. Above the planet, the alien ships didn't fire. They didn't move. They simply watched, waiting for something. Then, for the first time in recorded history, the stars trembled, because something more ancient than the galaxies themselves had just woken up on Earth. And the sky remembered why it had feared them. The war gods rise. The abyss stirred. Inside the submerged facility, the first of the stasis pods fully disengaged. The transparent cover slid back with a smooth mechanical whisper, releasing a low, resonant hum that sent vibrations through the surrounding structure. Dr. Elias Carter stood frozen, his mind failing to comprehend the reality unfolding before him. They had found something buried under the ocean. Something ancient, something alive. But now, as the first of the sleepers awoke, he realized they had uncovered a secret that was never meant to be found. The figure inside the pod inhaled sharply. It was the first breath he had taken in what could have been millennia. His chest rose and fell steadily, his skin glowing with faint golden markings that pulsed in sync with the rhythmic energy of the chamber. Then his eyes opened. They weren't human. Not entirely. They shimmered with a depth that seemed to hold the weight of entire civilizations, of histories erased from time. He blinked once, then slowly turned his head to look directly at the drone hovering before him. Ava Monroe, watching from Orion's command deck, swallowed hard. He's aware. Elias gripped the console. What's his heart rate? Ava glanced at the readings. It's stable. Too stable. Almost. Controlled. Blake, standing behind them, exhaled sharply. What the hell is he? Then the second pod opened. And the third. One by one, they woke up. Above Earth, the silent war begins. Far above, in the silent vacuum of space, the 5 alien vessels remained motionless. Inside the lead ship, Ambassador Zarek of the Stellar Concordat stood before a towering holoscreen, his silver skin reflecting the artificial glow of shifting glyphs. His hands clenched behind his back as he watched the data stream in. The readings were clear. They were waking up. A voice cut through the silence. Ambassador, the Council is awaiting your report. Zarek turned. Another figure stood behind him, a woman with pale violet eyes and sleek, armor-like garments. Commander Rithar, one of the highest-ranking officers in the Concordat's fleet. They won't like what I have to say, Zarek muttered. Rethar stepped forward. Then we do what must be done. Zarek exhaled, rubbing his temple. You don't understand, Commander. The war gods weren't just soldiers. They were. He hesitated. They were forces of nature. Rethar narrowed her eyes. Then why did we bury them? Zarek turned back to the holoscreen, watching as the readings intensified. because we couldn't kill them. First contact. Again. Inside the submerged facility, the figures from the pods were beginning to move. Slowly at first, like machines rebooting after centuries of dormancy. Their bodies, though humanoid, did not move like men. Their movements were too precise, too controlled. There was an otherness about them, something that made Elias feel like he was staring at beings who had once walked among the gods. The tallest of them, the first one who had awoken, stood fully upright. His gaze shifted across the chamber, scanning everything. Then, slowly, he stepped forward. The moment his foot touched the ground, the entire facility shook. Alarms flared across Orion's command deck. Ava's fingers flew across the controls, seismic activity increasing. No, it's localized. The tremors are coming from inside the structure. Blake's voice was tense. Tell me it's not collapsing. It's not, Elias muttered, eyes fixed on the screen. It's reacting to him. As if in response, the entire facility came to life. Walls illuminated with shifting patterns of golden energy, ancient systems powering up in a slow, methodical sequence. Symbols that had once been inert now pulsed with intelligence, as though recognizing the return of their masters. And then, for the first time, the war god spoke. His voice was deep, layered, resonating not only in the room, but through the very walls themselves. Who has woken us? The crew of Orion didn't dare breathe. Elias took a slow step forward, speaking through the drone's microphone. My name is Dr. Elias Carter. We are explorers, scientists. We found this place buried beneath the ocean. The war god turned his glowing eyes toward the drone. The weight of his gaze was crushing, not hostile, but powerful. Your kind was not meant to remember. Elias swallowed. Remember what? The war god exhaled slowly. The air around him rippled, as if reality itself struggled to contain his presence. The war. The forgotten war. High above Earth, aboard the stellar Concordat's flagship, Ambassador Zarek closed his eyes. The readings confirmed it. Their memories are intact, he whispered. We're too late. Rethar stiffened. Then we strike now. Zarek remained silent. His mind was filled with echoes of history, of things his people had tried to bury, things that should never have been found. He turned toward the holographic interface and issued a single command. Begin planetary containment. Across the globe, the 5 alien ships shifted position. Their forms elongated, extending sleek metallic wings that pulsed with energy. The skies above Earth darkened as a shimmering field of golden light began to form, a planetary barrier, an inescapable cage. They weren't here to attack Earth. They were here to lock it down. The awakening continues. Back in the trench, another pod disengage. Then another. More of them were waking. More war gods. Elias could feel it, an ancient storm rising. The air itself felt electric, charged with something beyond science. He knew, deep in his bones, that what they had just uncovered was not merely history. It was the beginning of something bigger. The war god before him turned to his kin, nodding slowly. As if sharing some silent understanding, the others responded in kind. Then he turned back to Elias, stepping forward until he was mere inches from the drone's camera. They are coming to stop us. His voice was steady, but there was something dangerous behind it. Something determined. Elias's heart pounded. The ones in the ships, the stellar Concordat. The war god nodded. Why? What happened before? Elias pressed. What war? The war god exhaled, his golden markings glowing brighter. Then, for the first time since waking, he gave a small, knowing smile. They remember the last time we walked among the stars. He lifted his hand, pressing it against the glowing wall of the facility. The entire chamber rumbled. And now, they will remember why they feared us. From above, the alien ships finished deploying their planetary shield. But in the abyss below, something far more powerful had just begun to awaken.